was 5 a.m. last Thursday when the phone rang and woke me out of a deep sleep. I'd been up till midnight, 1 o'clock, working on things, and I ignored the phone, but then it rang again, and I decided something was wrong. So I raced into the kitchen, picked up the phone, and it was a wrong number. So by then, I was so awake I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and I made myself a cup of coffee and decided what I'd get done before I had to leave for the airport at noon. I had plenty of time since I was up so early. But then one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, I was leaving for the airport a half an hour late. And I was a little stressed because you never know about security, and I really needed to make this plane because I was on my way to a very important workshop. So I'm driving along, and all of a sudden I feel my F-250, Thelma, pull to the right and start thumping. And I realized, oh my God, I've got a flat tire. Well, the good news is I carry those little cans of things. So I went out and put it in the thing and blew the tire up and got back on the road and made it to the airport. So I even made it to the airport with time to spare. And luckily there was no security line at Southwest in San Jose, which never happens. So I whizzed on through security and I ran down to Hudson News because I knew my book would be there, Defy Gravity, and I haven't seen it yet on a shelf. So I raced into Hudson News and looked here and looked there and looked here and looked there, and I searched that store up one end and down the other and couldn't find my book. So disappointed. But I thought, okay, I'll just go sit down. So I sat down because my plane was delayed. I sat down and pulled out my iPad, and the battery was dead. Oops, forgot to plug it in again. So then I pulled up my Mac, and my Mac was a blue screen with a little spinny thing in the middle. A blue screen on a Macintosh? So I tried to shut it off and nothing worked, so I knew I had to call Apple. So I started looking on my iPhone on Safari for an Apple email, Apple anything for customer support, and finally gave up and just called Apple. And got through the hold and got through the line and was told I'd be on hold for 15 to 20 minutes. Wow. So I decided to go back to Hudson News because I just knew my book was supposed to be in there. So I started looking and looking again, and I finally found my book all the way in the very back, on the back-facing shelf at the very bottom in the corner where nobody would ever see it. So I reached down and picked up the stack, pulled out my autographed by author stickers, and began to autograph the books and put the stickers on them and set them up high. Well, about the time I finished that, my phone came alive that Apple was talking on the conference line, and I reached across to grab my iPhone and I knocked all of the books off of one side of the bookcase. So we got to pick all of those back up, and at least my book was in a better place by the time I was done because it was on top, not buried. But anyway, I suddenly realized my plane was boarding, so I'm on the phone with Apple, running to get on the plane. The Apple guy was really quick, and he helped me figure out what to do. But I'm number A18 in Southwest, and they were just boarding. So I get in line, and I follow along, and I'm heading on the plane when I hear the and the guy says, "Ma'am, you have to come back. You're on the wrong plane." How can I be on the wrong plane? I'm going to Vegas. It's 1:50. Well, there are two flights that leave at this time, and this one goes through Reno, the other goes through Burbank. You're on the one going through Burbank. I suggest you run because they leave 5 minutes earlier than we do. Oops. So I take off and I run down the terminal, and I can hear them paging, "Rebel Brown, will you please board, blah, blah, blah." So I barely made it. But now instead of being A18, I'm in a middle seat and almost in the back of the bus. Not all the way in the back, though. I was about 10 rows up. So I get in, and everybody's staring at me because I'm the last one on the plane. And I go to put my bag up in the overhead, and the little front zippy thing is undone. My plastic bag with all my liquid falls out, and everything, all my little bottles go flying all over the plane. Yes, I wanted to curl up and hide, but I had to pick all that stuff up and then climb into my middle seat, everybody staring. But then I kind of hung out, and just the guy next to me on the right thinks I'm a nutcase because I'm so late for the plane. And anyway, I start talking to the gentleman next to me on the left after we take off, and he sees my iPad, and so we start playing with my iPad, and the next thing you know, I dump his glass of ice water in his lap. So we had to clean that mess up. And after that, I start to look for my iPad, and I can't find it. And I'm looking, and we can't find my iPad. And we search all around the seats and everywhere, we can't find it. And finally, we had to call a flight attendant who had to get on the PA system and announce to everyone, would they please look for my iPad, because it was gone, and it had slid all the way to the back of the plane and was up against the wall behind the last row of seats. That's how embarrassed it was by being with me. So they brought my iPod back to me. The guy sitting next to me on the right now knows that I am a poster child for a space cadet. Everybody's laughing, and I just wanted to curl up and crawl away. So, but we get to Vegas, and I get off the plane. I'm like, okay, here we go. Things are going to get better. And I get a cab, and I get to my hotel. And when I get to my hotel, I go to pay the cab driver, and well, he doesn't take cash, or he doesn't take credit cards, and I have no cash. And I can't find my ATM card either. Oops, wonder where it is. I still haven't found it. Anyway, I go into the hotel with my checkbook and my cards, my credit card, my American Express, and my Visa. They won't cash a check for me, even though I'm staying there. And it's only $25 at this point in time. So they suggest I go to the cash cage. So I run into the casino, go to the cash cage. What a misnomer. They won't give me any cash. I have an Amex, I have 2 Visas, I have my checkbook and my driver's license. They won't give me any cash. I beg, I plead. There's no cash in Vegas. So I have to go back to the cab driver who says no, he can't take anything but cash. And we have to go look for a check cashing place. So we finally found one of those check cashing places. And I run inside thinking, this is going to be easy. Well, I had to fill out a form that was kind of like a home loan form. And then they had to fingerprint me and take my picture. And then they had to call my bank to verify funds on my $75 check. Well, a half an hour later, I finally get out of there. I run out to the cab. The cab takes me back to the hotel. And I now have a $50 cab ride in Las Vegas. Yes, for going a whole 4 miles. So I get in the hotel. I get upstairs, and as I'm going upstairs, I'm thinking to myself, what a day, what a day. What a crappy, wow. And here's the reason I'm sharing this story. I was stuck in my own gravity. Somewhere around 10 o'clock in the morning, I started thinking, wow, what a crappy day. I wonder what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? Wow, what could go wrong now? Flat tire. What could get worse? No books. No books. What could get worse? Dead iPad. Dead iMac. Books falling over. Wrong plane. Exploding plastic bags. It just got worse and worse. All because in my brain, I was expecting it to. That's how powerful gravity is in our personal lives, and that's how sneaky it can be. So, I wanted to share this with you. I hope you giggled a little bit, and just remember one thing. The next time you're having one of those days, it could be your gravity. Happy Friday, y'all.